It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. Nielsen and Gazzola with you the morning after Game 5. If you're watching on the live stream on Twitter or YouTube, of course, you can chime in if you have any comments on the game, and I feel like a few of you might have some comments on the game. We decided to do a Saturday episode instead of a Friday episode because there will be lots to discuss after the game as opposed to before the game. Tommy, how was Hello Hockey today over on TSN 1260?
Hello Hockey was a lot of fun, and it's refreshing, we did talk briefly about the Oilers Golden Knights late in the show, and it is neat because it's like you look at all the other stuff that's going on in the hockey world. So we talked about the Leafs losing, we talked about the Kraken and Stars game tonight, and then we had Ryan Marsh on to talk about his experiences as assistant coach in the DEL with the Shawinigan Wild Wings. So,
how's Marshy doing anyway? I saw him at the Oilers game a few weeks back, but yeah,
Marshy's been around, and it's great to catch up with him. Obviously, Oil Kings fans would know him from his time behind the bench with Steve Hamilton, and then he went over to Saskatoon for a couple of years, and now he finds himself in Germany. He's doing great, and he's a student of the game. I think that's the best way to describe him, even though he's been in the game his whole life and at different elite levels. But it's that perspective, Dusty, that really makes it cool and kind of encapsulates what Hello Hockey is. Yes, there's a little bit of Oilers in there, but really the focus is on the broader spectrum of the hockey world. We talked about the World Hockey Championship, which is underway. So to have a guy like Marshy to share his experiences across the pond in the DEL, it's pretty cool. And, I think it changes the perspective. And I hope when people listen, like they get it's just a little bit refreshing to dial back the Oilers talk because
there's so much more going on in hockey than just the Oilers, right? Like even just locally. So yeah, it's a good concept for sure. So all right, the Oil Stream brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Hey, nothing says treat mom on Mother's Day like a delicious Popeye's chicken sandwich, maybe even some nugs, so the whole family can share it together. Just make sure mom gets to choose all of the juicy nugs that she wants. DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats. May I suggest going through the Popeye's drive-thru and taking mom out for a picnic, Tommy?
I love that.
A Popeye's picnic.
Popeye's picnic with a wicker basket. You get that flannel kind of tablecloth, and you make sure that the ants stay away and mom can enjoy her delicious chicken sandwich from Popeye's.
How was post-game last night, buddy?
Interesting. First of all, late start. So I think that kind of kills the vibe a little bit, especially when they lose. Some people were declaring the season over. Others were saying, you know what, they'll bounce back in game 6. Less gloom and doom than in years past. And I think what helps that is what Edmonton did last year to the LA Kings. They were in this scenario. And I think, it is a series that they could claw their way back into. And it was there for them yesterday, Dusty. It really was. In a minute 29 in the second period, caves them in, and that's their own fault. It really is. And don't get me wrong, that call on Broberg was shit.
Well, and that's like that's such a fascinating discussion. And let's get to that. Let's make that the Boston Pizza Appetizer, because that was one of the biggest storylines from the game. Appy hour daily from 2 to 5, and then again from 9 until close. Maybe you treat mom to some pizza. Take her out for dinner at Boston Pizza. And if you're looking for a place to watch the game on Sunday, any of the Boston Pizza locations, they will certainly take care of you. I know there's so much more that happens after that penalty, Tommy. Yeah. But that's why hockey and all sports is such a game of just moments. Like the Oilers are up 2-1. I thought they were playing very well up to that point. And then just a horseshit called by Kazari out at center ice, which didn't make any sense to me at all. The ref right there knows that Eichel is engaged just as much with Broberg as Broberg is with Eichel. And yes, the team needs to not take a penalty right after and kill the penalties and not collapse for 2 minutes. But at the same call that turns the tide in that hockey game.
I was blown away by it because they had the angle at the time during the game live was on the corner cam, and I was like, Broberg's kind of in there, he's mixing it up, but I could see Eichel's arm as well, like fending him off, and I'm like, like instinctually you're trying to break down everything as you're watching. I'm like, I think Eichel probably has his hand on Broberg's stick, and I'm like, okay, Zebra's right there. Like he's probably got a great view of what's going on. No call, great. And then you see the puck go around the corner, and then the next thing you know, there's a whistle, and I was like, no way. I'm like, do not tell me the back official called that. That was instinctually my reaction. And then I saw the replay where they had the view for the inside of Broberg and Eichel, and it was exactly like I thought. I'm like, oh, okay, there's Eichel's hand on his stick. Maybe they're calling the holding the stick. And then it wasn't, and it's the hold on Broberg, and I'm like, holy crap, like that's bad. And it was the guy at the back end. It happened to be Kazari, like brutal. That should have been a meeting of the minds, but you trust the other
guy, right? Yeah.
And, hey, what'd you see? Okay, that's what you saw. I guess we're going with it. And
but the other guy who's looking right at it, I mean, should be able to be like, sorry, no, man, they were both holding each other. Like, no, but you're never going to do that. They don't do that. And I think I was watching on Sportsnet after the game. Kelly Rudy was saying like the angle that they had from like Kazari's view, he could barely see it. He was kind of blocked out when he made the call. So I mean, so that penalty happens, and then you get the high stick. The Janmark penalty, and all of a sudden you're in a really tough spot right there. Tommy, like I didn't think they played a bad game, but it was literally like a 2-minute stretch in which Vegas kind of just took over. And I will give Vegas credit. I thought Vegas finished that game very strong at the end. Like Vegas was like, okay, let's go close this thing out. And they were all over the Oilers in the last 3 or 4 minutes of that hockey game. But for Edmonton, I mean, I could see you're not mad with your effort. Like you played a pretty good hockey game last night. I didn't think they were near as aggressive physically, setting the tone early in Game 5 as they were in Game 4, and I'm assuming they will be in Game 6, which is why I think they'll win Game 6. But overall, not a bad game, Tom. Just 2 minutes of complete shit. They just sort of fell apart.
Listen, yes, they did collapse. No denying that. The Golden Knights are, again, a very good hockey team. This is the best team in the Western Conference, slightly ahead of the Oilers ultimately, and they were consistent the entire season. Do they have their flaws? Yep, absolutely. And Dusty, you make a good point about the way the Golden Knights closed that game out. Very aggressive, good sticks, always in lanes. They were on the body. They forced Edmonton, and Edmonton made some poor decisions. There were shooting lanes that were passed up. But, yeah,
wasn't there? There was a few times you're like, just shoot that. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's stemming the tide. It is handling the moment, having the wherewithal to be able to bend and not break, and that's something that the Oilers have struggled with. It popped up again yesterday. Put it behind you. You just focus on Game 6. Go out there, have a bounce back like they generally do, and then anything can happen in Game 7. But yes, they got caved in by a quick spurt. Not as bad as the 2 goals in 7 seconds that we saw against the New Jersey Devils, but 3 in 129 is not good, especially in the playoffs. A lot of people pointed to Stuart Skinner, and I know he got the yank, and we'll talk about him. But
yeah, we will. Yeah,
it's a team thing where you have to turn the tide. And people were saying, "Hey, why didn't they take a timeout?" Well, remember when they tried to challenge that Eichel goal for goalie interference, they lost their timeout. So a lot of little things that kind of had the domino ripple effect, whatever you want to call it. The Oilers played hard. They really looked like they were in control until those penalties, and it was a crap call. But you got to find ways to battle adversity, and the Oilers ultimately failed in that regard last night.
We'll talk about the absence of Nurse and Pietrangelo. With Nurse out, Broberg did have to draw in, Tommy. Didn't even play 7 minutes. Couple of penalties. All in all, tough night for Broberg. Even though one call we said, I mean, we didn't like it. We thought it was garbage. The other one was kind of tough because he got up and took a penalty there. You would have liked a little bit more, but I'm not even sure I really expected that much more from him getting thrown into that spot.
Nope, tough spot, and he's been limited in his minutes. And if people are going to suggest, hey, get Marcus Niemelainen in there or something like that, that's even worse. I mean, that's even worse. Broberg has been playing in these playoffs minimal, but throwing a guy like Niemelainen in there, I think that the Golden Knights would key in more on him, and that would have been more of an issue for the Oilers because that's tough to slide in like that. So they did splice in the other guys, the main 4, and I thought Desharnais was okay too, but
He was good enough.
great.
Desharnais was good enough to get them through. To get them through last night. If you're watching on the live stream right now, feel free to comment. If you're watching YouTube or Twitter, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on all your podcasting platforms. If you want to hop over onto Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. That would be magnificent. Tommy, we talked a lot about heading in who would be missed more, Darnell Nurse or Alex Pietrangelo, and it did end up surprising me a little bit. And this is not because I thought the guys who were stepping in for Nurse, like Kulak and stuff, I didn't think but I thought the Oilers could take advantage of that Golden Knights blue line without Alex Pietrangelo. And I got to give credit to the rest of the Golden Knights blue line, buddy, for stepping up and I think having a pretty darn good hockey game. McDavid was in tack mode all night, and they got beat, but he could have beat them a lot more. I thought they did a good job holding down the fort. And the Oilers certainly missed Darnell Nurse too. They didn't, but I thought the Oilers could take advantage of it a little bit more than they did last night.
And just, the drama that is the Stanley Cup playoffs, Nick Hague ends up with the game-winning goal, right? Like that's just one of those storylines where you're like, oh my God, really? That's how that's going to go down. And sure enough, that's how it played out. The Oilers have their chances, and you're right. McDavid looked like his knee was holding up, or he was pushing through. They were attacking. He had some great opportunities, especially in that third period. The goal he scored was brilliant.
He was great last night.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say about the whole situation with Nick Hague is, like, I think that they fed off the crowd. They got up for that game, and then the defense, there was a lot of cohesiveness, and I think the Golden Knights handled that next man up mentality slightly better than the Oilers. And they got lucky too with a post or two. Like the one Bouchard shot hit the post, the other Bouchard shot in the dying seconds. I can't remember. Did it catch the stick of Aiden Hill? Or
it looked like it might have been headed right inside that blocker side post, right? So
puck luck there for sure. And then where the Oilers missed Darnell Nurse, and you talked about it off the top, was the physical play. Darnell Nurse has played with a physical edge. He was great in Game 4, and he could have contributed to that. So that was a gap, certainly. And, slight advantage to the Golden Knights in handling the next man up mentality. And in a game of inches, if you will, they used that to their advantage, and it turned out to be something that led to their victory.
Mark Stone's interesting in the series because he can barely move. Like I think he can barely move. Like he's grinding it out. But even though the fact that he's not getting around the ice very well, buddy, he's still finding a way to I don't know how much career Mark Stone in general has left. Right. Like I heard that he might have not come back from this ever, and now he's back and he's trying to grind this out right now. I thought he was good in spots last night, considering how little of movement he has available to him right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, and Oiler fans right now probably don't want to hear this, but Mark Stone is honestly a warrior. That was a great pickup by Kelly McCrimmon with that trade with Ottawa. He is an excellent player. That's why he's the captain. And, playing on a bad back that just had surgery recently and having the success that he has had and the impact that he has had is a testament to the type of battler that he truly is.
All right, Stuart Skinner pulled for the second time in this series, Tommy, third time in the playoffs. Jack Campbell has come in and in all three situations played relatively well. And I know we've had this discussion multiple times. It was funny because the other time we had it in this series, I said, I think about it more now than I would have in the last series. Now Campbell made some really good saves last night. Like that was the best I think I've seen Campbell play in quite some time. Like he looked relatively steady last night. So, and I know a lot of people on the live stream are calling for Campbell to start. I know on the post game show last night, I think I put out a tweet. I haven't even looked at let me take a look at the results. I posted this last night right before I went to bed, and it was heavily in favor of Campbell last night. Now it's 62.3% Campbell, 37.7% Skinner, just over 4,100 votes. Wow. Man, this this time, legitimately to me, it's a tough call. The other two times, I was 100% going back to Skinner. This time, this is a tough call, buddy. What do you think happened? What would you do, and what do you think Jay Woodcroft does?
I've been battling with this, all of last night, this morning. I think you go back to Stuart Skinner, and I think that they go back to Stuart Skinner because he bounces back.
He did bounce back great after getting pulled last time. That's the one thing that makes me think maybe you do go back to him again.
He has had really good moments, and this is your guy down the road. This is the guy that's supposed to get you to the promised land. And do you want him to go through this type of adversity? And if he comes out on top, what does that do for him? Does that put him over the top? I mean, he has had his struggles this postseason. He has had spotty play, sub 900 save percentage, above 3.0 GA, and those are not great numbers. But he, among a bunch of goalies in these playoffs, has suffered the same type of fate numbers-wise. Campbell has the edge because he's a veteran guy. He's been around. He's been in tough situations, and he looked really poised last night. That's where the draw is to Campbell, and I'm fighting with it in my mind too. I'm more open to Jack Campbell starting game number 6. I think Stuart Skinner, your heart is saying that's the right way to go. I think it will be Skinner, but I'm like, is that you're going to be wrestling with this? So, dude, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, what are you telling Skinner if you go to Campbell? Does he lose his confidence? He has a good head on his shoulders. I don't know if he would lose his confidence.
Like, you know him, we would know him more than I do. Like, do you think he seems unfathomable? Like, I feel like if unflappable, I guess. When I say unfathomable, I mean, at times his play has been that, but I feel like he'd be like, I don't think it would ruin him for the rest of the playoffs if that's what we're thinking.
No.
And to be honest with you, statistically, it can't be much worse than the rest of the playoffs so far anyway.
Right.
Man, this is such a tough call. I think Jay Woodcroft will go back to Stu Skinner.
Yeah.
But if he starts Jack Campbell, I'm not gonna rip him, no matter how it goes. No matter how it goes, even if Campbell gets absolutely peppered and torched in Game 6 and they get eliminated, I think it's very fun. I think I would start Jack Campbell. I honestly believe I would start Jack Campbell. Give a different mindset right from the start of the hockey game. His last 3 appearances in the playoffs have all been very good. I mean, and overall, I mean, Skinner's numbers in the playoffs are worse than Campbell's numbers were in the regular season. And think about what we were saying about Jack Campbell in the regular season, right? Like, if Jack Campbell had these numbers right now that Stuart Skinner has, nobody would be saying start him. Nobody. They'd be saying you have to go to the other guy. So I think that's the way I have to go. I think he'll start Skinner. I think I'd probably start Campbell, but it's close. And I don't know, where do you come out on the whole Skinner on a short leash? Like, why start a goalie if you're like, as soon as he sucks, we're going to pull him? Like, to me, you're not having much faith if you're like, it's going to be a short leash on him.
Yeah. And that's where you're toying with your guy too. But, okay, I'll say this. One indicator that I am worried about last night, besides the fact that pucks were getting by Stuart Skinner was, and Joaquin Gage was on the pregame show with me. He sat and watched the game with myself, Hernan Salas, and Hernan's girlfriend.
Oh, Hernan Salas too? Beautiful.
Yeah. It was
and his lovely lady. Reading. She's terrific.
She was great.
Yeah, she's great.
And so I looked at Gage and I'm like after the Stone goal, even the Eichel goal, kind of a weird bounce, but after the Stone goal, I'm like, hey, like, he seems to be deeper in his net today. And Joaquin's like, and he kind of just on the Stone goal. I know it's a 5-on-3, but Joaquin's like, all he has is he's got to come out of the corner, and he's probably going to try to wrap it. And Skinner was kind of just sitting back waiting for Stone to make the play. And Joaquin's like, what I used to do, and this is Joaquin Gage. Like, Gage played in the NHL. Sure, he didn't play a long time in the NHL, but he was a long-time pro. And he goes, you get your stick out to challenge and try to make the shooter do what he doesn't want to do. But Skinner, was back. He was just kind of waiting, and sure enough, Stone, who's 6'3", 6'4", just wrapped it.
Had that reach.
And then even the head goal, I know there was a screen. Bouchard was in the way. I think there was a flyby by Ekholm, and that gets in your eyes. But Joaquin pointed out, he goes, look at where Skinner is. He's kind of in the middle of the crease, and you got to battle. You got to battle. You got to start. You got to know where the puck is on the opponent's stick when he's making the pass out to the point. You got to have an understanding where it's coming from. You got to look through things. And Skinner was just kind of sitting back and in the middle of his crease instead of at the top, like looking around. He's a big dude.
It's weird because in game 4, Tommy, the one thing I said to Gager after game 4, I said Skinner seems so much more active in the crease in game 4.
Right.
Like he was more not overly erratic, but he seemed like he was just more into it in game 4 as opposed to that somebody sit back. And Stone didn't have many plays in tight there. No, right? You could have eliminated the one play that he had. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll just end it with this. It looked like Skinner just went back into block mode.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that ended up being a detriment. Don't get me wrong. Penalties played into that. The way the group handled things in front of him did too.
I will say this. I do think the Oilers win game 6 no matter who's in net. I do. Yeah. I think they're going to come out and do what they did in game 4. They're going to establish. They have to be physical early in these hockey games. They just didn't have that going for them in game 5. And if they can do that in game 6, then I think there will end up being a game 7, no matter who is between the pipes for that one. And that actually brings us to Inside the Numbers for our partners over at CoolBet. And right now, actually, if you like the Edmonton Oilers to come back and win this series, this is the best number you would have gotten at any point along the way. Now, the Oilers are minus 183 home favorites in game 6. But if you like them to win game 6, or Oilers fan, you must think they're going to be capable of winning game 7 on the road down in Vegas. Right now, you can get them to win the series at plus 172. So that's really good value. So I would rather bet the Oilers at plus 172 to win the series than to bet them separately to win game 6 and game 7. So I do think the play right now, go to coolbet.com. If you still believe in the Oilers, the best value you're going to get here over the next 48 hours is Edmonton Oilers to win this series at plus 172. And Tommy, I know a lot of people will be in full-blown panic mode after last night, down 3-2. Now they have to face elimination twice here in this series. But this is what this series was always going to be, right? Yeah. So one team was always going to face elimination in game 6, and then everybody was going to face elimination in game 7. I don't know many people who had this thing going 5. It was all 6s, it was all 7s, and it's still trending that way here.
Yeah, no, it's... there were people even pointing to, hey, this team's not going to win a Stanley Cup, and this is the problem with this team, like really looking down the road. And it's like, relax. You have Sunday. You're still playing here. Go home, win a game, play the way you did, like you did in game 4, and things should take care of themselves. Don't give Vegas an opportunity. Don't leave a sliver of hope in that game. Just go take it the same way you took game 2, the same way you took game 4. There is a trend here. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Go take it. They have done it, and they can do it again. Do not let Vegas hang around in the game. Go get it. And then game 7, honestly, anything can happen in a game 7. We've witnessed that. We saw it in the last round with the Kraken. We saw it with the Florida Panthers. We saw it with, those situations. So just focus on game 6, win that one, no holds barred, do everything you can to win it, and then send this thing back to Vegas.
But before we wrap, what do you think of Draisaitl last night? Draisaitl seemed kind of off last night, didn't he? Okay, because maybe it's because McDavid looked godlike last night. Like he was incredible. He was going. There was a couple of times where Leon was engaged in a battle and sort of just stood up and left. I was just like, what's going on with this guy? Now he's -3 and has 1 assist in his last 3 games, Tommy. Yeah. He had a brilliant start to the playoffs, but Leon's going to have to be Leon here, I think, if they're going to win this series. And he wasn't Leon last night.
No, he wasn't. And some others were the same too. You know what? Hyman had an okay night.
But 5-on-5, that top 6 didn't have anything going outside of McDavid last night.
They got schooled 5-on-5 last night after a really good performance in game 4. Pardon me. Yeah. And
too many beers doing hello hockey this morning, buddy.
Dude, I have not had a beer since last night. Coffee. I just had breakfast at local. It was good. Just get back to simplifying your game.
Yeah.
I think he'll be fine. Maybe he wants to do everything, right? And when you have 2 guys on the ice at the same time trying to do everything, you can get in each other's way. You can overthink things. And
do you think Woodcroft puts them back together the rest of the way in this series now? Because they won that last game, game 4, on separate lines, and that was probably their best 5-on-5 game of the series. So
I was going to say, I think they go back to separate lines, and then depending on how the Oilers do in that first period, it'll dictate where they go from there.
Whew, she's a big one. And when did the NHL finally announce the time of this game?
Today at 10:30 our time, and they handed everybody a lovely 8 p.m. local start on a Sunday.
I don't hate the late start. I mean, the team's used to playing late starts,
Sure.
but it seems a little strange that it took so long to just be like, oh, you're gonna play your regular time, 8:00, even though there's no other game. Like,
it is laughable because
Yeah.
last night after the game, we get the email from the league with the updated times, and they updated the Kraken Stars game time-wise, and they updated Game 7 if necessary for the Oilers and Golden Knights.
but not Game 6.
And they're like, Game 6 between the Oilers and Golden Knights will be played on Sunday night. Time will be announced when available. You can watch it on blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah. And I'm like, what a pile of shit. And then this
Yeah.
morning at like 10:30, I get the email. We're on the air for Hello Hockey. And I'm like, hey, Belzy, by the way, 8:00.
Finally got a game time. Finally got a game time. Yeah,
That
8:00
tells you-
start.
That tells you where the NHL is in terms of ranking and pecking order in American markets. And people will be like, that turns off Canadians. Screw you, NHL. Listen, the NHL knows that Canadians are going to watch that game no matter what.
If it started at 10:00, we'd all watch it. Like, yeah.
Maybe it hurts numbers out east and in the Maritimes. I get that. But they know in general Canadians are going to watch it, and they keep that top of mind. They want the Americans to watch it, and they know that baseball and whatever else they're showing during the day.
There is no other league south of the border with one game featuring the two biggest stars in the game in the playoffs when there's no other games that night in the league would be stuck with the 10:00 Eastern start.
Yeah.
But here you are, National Hockey League, and that's what you get when your Department of Player Safety is a fucking joke. I haven't even got to it yet.
You want to get to that?
Well, I mean, they're both going to be coming back. That was going to be my tie-in here. They're both coming back for Game 6, and I think it's a load of horse shit that they're both coming back for Game 6. I don't know how a league can justify Darnell Nurse's automatic suspension being worth the same as what Alex Pietrangelo did and tried to do to Leon Draisaitl. It's embarrassing that was the end result, and it's even worse that we all knew that was going to be the end result because the National Hockey League is just a bunch of puppets and cowards, buddy.
Yeah, it was so predictable that we talked about it right after the game on the post-game show. Cass and
A game apiece. You knew already then?
We're like, it's going to be a wash, and it shouldn't be a wash. What should have happened is they should have rescinded the instigator and given Pietrangelo the one game. Done. That's the right thing to do. Vegas wouldn't like it. They'll make noise about it if that happened. But that is what should have happened. And they went and they screwed it up. They pooched it. And sadly, Cass and I both looked at each other and we're like, they're going to get a game apiece, aren't they? And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Nothing you can do about it now. Just go out there and win the next game. I don't know what happens to Kolasar. He almost killed a Viking last night. That's
nothing. Nothing's going to happen to Kolasar, buddy.
Yeah.
Andrew Cogliano had his neck broken on a hit from behind, and nothing happened to Jordan Eberle. Like, there's a reason the National Hockey League can't be taken seriously south of the border, and it's because it's an embarrassment. That's why. Like, I hate that we all care about it so much, even knowing it's a fucking joke. Like, it's a bad look on all of us. We're a bunch of suckers. We're all suckers. We sit here and live and die with this shit, and the National Hockey League has no idea what they're doing. You're starting a game at 10:00 Eastern because of every other sport being more important than you. Like, it's just whatever. I do think the Oilers win Game 6, and I do think we have a Game 7 on Tuesday. So, and that should be great. I mean, that'll be. I'll be very surprised if McDavid doesn't will the Oilers to victory in Game 6. And then in Game 7, anything can happen. And, I mean, the Oilers could win big. They could lose big. I mean, anything could happen in Game 7. But I do think they win Game 6. Fascinated to see what they do between the pipes, even though I do think they will go with Skinner. It might be time for Campbell. What a fun episode, Tommy. This should be great, buddy. You enjoy Sunday night, man. I don't even want to imagine my show on Monday morning if they're eliminated. Monday morning show is either like amazing or, a funeral procession, basically. Oh, well. All right, Tommy, get us out of here, man.
Boy, you are a hot little tamale.
I'm going golfing now, and I'm going to have to be outside for 4.5 hours today. It's like 28 fucking degrees. Perfect. Sorry for all my swearing on this episode today, everybody. I just got very fired up. If there's any kids that were listening, I apologize. Don't talk like me. I have a filthy mouth, all right?
You are filthy, but for the best reasons. Dusty, this was a pleasure. I like this doing the show, the day after,
right? That's the way you do it, man.
So good. I get all that emotion. But thanks for tuning in. And as always, be sure to like, share, subscribe. We are top 5 oil and gas podcasts in the world, so let's keep it that way. Dusty, have fun golfing. Have a couple of social sparklers.
I will. I will.
On the swing lubricant, as I like to call it. And we'll catch up with you next week, pal.
See you later, buddy.